It began with one headline that burned across fan pages like fire. Robyn Brown leaves Kody after financial collapse. For years, Robyn was recognized as Kody Brown's faithful fourth wife, the one who remained when the rest retreated. Christine stormed off in anger. Janelle went with fortitude. Even Meri ended the silence chain at last. But Robyn? She was the one who clung to Kody, defended him, cried for him, and swore she believed in him. Fans called her his favorite wife, the one he prioritized above all others. Nobody thought she would be the one to leave. And yet, here we are. The reality is that it was not a single fight, a single mistake, or a single betrayal. It was a buildup of years, a slow-motion implosion that started with money and ended with love or the absence of it. Kody had long portrayed himself as the visionary, the guy with a dream of constructing a huge compound for his wives and kids on the Coyote Pass land in Flagstaff. But things were much more modest in reality, off-camera and off-script. Debt was accumulating. Property taxes became due. Investments soured. Funds from the Sister Wives show, which had been a flood into the family's coffers, were now more of a drip. Still, Kody did not change. He held on to control, insisting on loyalty from wives already depleted. Christine broke the silence first, opting for freedom over Kody's stranglehold. Janelle left next, weary of money lies and promises unkept. Meri, years into the loneliness, cut the cord as well. By then, they were all gone, leaving Kody with only Robyn by his side. And that was when his empire fell apart. One evening, Kody came home with a stack of foreclosure notices and unpaid bills. He slammed them on the kitchen table. "We've lost it all, Robyn," he admitted, his voice cracking under the weight of truth. For years, Robyn had cried at moments like this. For years she begged him to find a way, to fight harder, to prove the world wrong. But not this time. She didn't cry. She didn't even seem angry. She just seemed empty. It was within that emptiness that everything changed. Robyn had given up more than anybody. She was the wife who believed in his vows even when the rest of them called them lies. She stood up for him in front of the cameras when Christine accused him of abandonment. She remained quiet when Janelle revealed his excessive spending. She had the stigma of being the favorite, subjected to the hatred of fans who believed that she was the cause of the family disintegration. And for what? To become nothing, no fortune, no security, no stability. Gradually, Robyn started drifting away. She no longer accompanied Kody during his angry tirades against his previous wives. She no longer soothed him when he descended into self-pity. She no longer smiled at his jokes, no longer brightened up in his company. She started spending more time on her phone, spending more time away from home, living a life where Kody was not a part of it. And that's when the rumors started. It started with fans seeing Robyn in town alone, sans Kody. Then came the pictures. Robyn looking beautiful, smiling for the first time in years, out on a dinner date with a man who was definitely not her spouse. The word spread fast. Robyn had someone new. Not just anyone though, but someone rich, settled and stable. This man wasn't bogged down in years of debt and deteriorating relationships. He wasn't fixated on control or overwhelmed by pride. He was all Kody was no longer: secure, confident, successful. And for Robyn, that was irresistible. Kody did notice the difference. Naturally, he demanded explanations. But each time he questioned her, Robyn turned cold. "Where are you going?" he barked. One evening. "Out," she said, never glancing up. "With whom?" Silence. That silence spoke volumes. When he finally did confront her, the walls came tumbling down. He accused her of being unfaithful, of being self-centered, of leaving the man who'd provided her with everything. But Robyn held nothing back anymore. For the first time, she directed her anger towards him. "Everything you've given me," she screamed. "Kody, you've given me nothing but debt, heartbreak, and broken promises. You broke down this family with your pride. I stayed when everybody else walked away, and all you did was pull us further into the disaster you made." Those are words that cut deeper than any monetary loss. Because Kody understood, in that instant, that Robyn had finally awakened to reality. She no longer viewed him as her savior. She viewed him as the cause of her world coming crashing down. The following weeks were savage. Kody begged. He pleaded. He attempted to guilt-trip her into remaining, reminding her of their children, their oaths, their so-called covenant. But Robyn was already gone. She started dating her new boyfriend publicly. Paparazzi caught her beaming in his company, laughing in a way that had never been seen since the earliest days of Sister Wives. The headlines were brutal. Robyn moves on with rich businessman. Kody left alone. For fans, the shock wasn't just that Robyn had left. It was that she looked happy doing it. After years of tears and pleas on national television, Robyn finally seemed free. Free of Kody's anger. Free of his obsession with control. Free of the financial disaster that had defined their marriage. And while that was happening, Kody was left to clean up the wreckage. All alone in his vacant house, he relived every moment of it over and over again in his head. Every wife who walked out the door, every child who turned against him, every choice that drove the family further apart. Christine had walked out with dignity. Janelle had walked out with strength. Meri had walked out with quiet resolve. Robyn had walked out with love. Love for another. And that was the most painful wound of all. The man who had once boasted of having 4 wives now had none. His empire was lost. His vision of creating a family dynasty was destroyed. And the one wife he had believed would stay with him forever, had not only departed, she had gone to another man, who could provide for her in ways Kody could not. It was the final betrayal. The final break. The demise of the sister wives' dream. For fans, it seemed like the final chapter in a saga they'd been watching for years. The man who based his entire life on polygamy had lost it, and the wife who had held on to him with desperation had walked away into a new life of riches, love, and security. Fans weren't surprised Kody was left alone. They were surprised that Robyn had finally gotten the courage to walk away. And maybe, ultimately, that's the twist of the story that is most cruel. The one wife Kody believed would never leave him, was the one who did. The tale of Robyn walking away from Kody didn't begin with one fight or an abrupt betrayal. It began with silence. A louder silence each and every day. A silence that dwelled within the Brown family like a ghost. Nobody wished to confront. But before that silence was the fall. The financial failure which took away everything that Kody prided himself on. For years, Kody Brown strolled with a swagger of confidence that he was creating something greater than himself. He informed his wives, his children, even the cameras that they were included in a master plan. He referenced legacy, property, dreams carved into the land of Coyote Pass and Flagstaff. "We'll build our forever home here," he said, raising his arms as if he were Moses delivering a promise from the mountain. But behind those speeches lay something far darker. Mismanaged money, unpaid bills and loans stacked so high they could crush anyone beneath them. It began quietly. A missed payment here. A late tax notice there. At first, Robyn didn't question it. She believed Kody's excuses. The money's coming next month. The show's renewing for another season. "Don't worry, Robyn. I've got this." She wanted to believe him, because believing was easier than facing the truth. But truth has a habit of making itself known. And it did so on the crisp evening in Flagstaff. Piney air was sharp outside, but a different kind of scent inside the Brown home. Despair. Kody slammed through the door, his face flushed, his hands tightening around a wad of papers so hard the edges were curled. He slapped them onto the kitchen table, and the sound hung in the air. Robyn approached slowly, her heart racing. "What is it?" she asked. Kody didn't answer right away. He rubbed his temples, pacing back and forth like a man trapped in a cage. Finally he turned and spat out the words that shattered everything. "We've lost it all, Robyn. The houses, the land. It's gone." Robyn locked up. She must have misheard. She looked at the documents and read words she never wanted to see. Foreclosure, default, balance due. Her throat constricted. This wasn't one late payment. This was failure. Total financial failure. The man who had assured her security, the man who had said she'd never have to worry again, had seen it all slip away from his hands. Usually Robyn would have cried. That was her job within this marriage. Tears, begging, standing up for Kody when others wouldn't. But on this night, the tears didn't come. Her face was numb, her eyes unflinching. Kody had noticed. He had anticipated comfort. A wife's hug, a gentle assurance that all would be well. What he got was only silence. That silence terrified him more than the foreclosure letters. The subsequent weeks were pandemonium. Creditors phoned, internet fans theorized. Property taxes on Coyote Pass remained unpaid. All of Kody's dreams, all that he had boasted of around the block house, family compound dynasty, were laid bare for what they truly were. All hype. Robyn struggled at first to maintain her dignity. She prepared meals. She put the children in bed. But every evening, sitting by herself in the living room, her mind grew black with anger. She recalled each instance Kody had waved her fears aside. Each time he had dismissed financial responsibility with a flick of his wrist. Every time he spent money they did not have on great fantasies. She remembered Christine's words as she was leaving. "He does not care about us, Robyn. He cares only about being in charge." At that point, Robyn had stood up for him, saying Christine just didn't get it. But now, Christine's words rang in her ears like a foretelling. The breakdown wasn't sudden, it had been building years. But when it struck like an earthquake, shattering the tenuous walls of trust that Robyn had constructed around her marriage. It came at a moment of desperation, when one evening Kody sat Robyn down at the kitchen table. His tone was biting, his movements erratic. "I don't care what they say, Robyn. This is just a setback. We'll get through this. We've still got the show. We've still got opportunities. I'll fix it." Robyn stared at him, her hands folded neatly in her lap. She didn't nod, she didn't reassure him. "Kody," she said softly, "you've been saying that for years, and every year it only gets worse." Her words hung in the air. Kody's jaw was clenched, but he had no response. That was when something changed in Robyn. She was no longer intimidated by the possibility of losing Kody. She was threatened by losing herself. After that, Robyn started shifting. She no longer leaped to his defense during fights. When fans online attacked him as selfish, she didn't come to his defense. When the other wives criticized him for manipulation, she remained quiet. And when Kody went on a tirade about loyalty, she just walked away. To Kody, this was betrayal. He saw Robyn withdrawing, closing up, and it scared him. He tried harder, striking out, blaming others and not himself. But the harder he pushed, the further Robyn faded away. And in that fading away, something else occurred. She started to see the reality. She realized that the fall wasn't monetary. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't spiritual. It was the failure of Kody himself. The strong man she believed in was weak. The leader she believed in was lost. The man she believed would keep her safe was the man annihilating her. The silence between them became intolerable. Kody would mention plans, but Robyn tuned him out. He would plead for reassurance, but she offered him none. He would seek her out, hoping for the wife who used to believe in him, but she disappeared. One evening, while Kody sat alone in the living room with his eyes fixed on the foreclosure notices, Robyn stood in the hallway, observing him. She no longer felt pity. She no longer felt anger. She felt nothing. Nothingness was more deadly than hate. For when love is turned to hate, there is still passion. There is still fire, but when love is turned to nothing, there is only emptiness, and emptiness can never be cured. It was clear to fans sitting outside that there were only glimpses of Kody yelling in interviews, of Robyn appearing far off, of the fissures deepening with each show. But within the Brown household, already it was done. The money meltdown was not merely about cash. It was about trust. It was about loyalty. It was about the fantasy that Kody could keep his family together by promising things. And for Robyn, it was the moment she knew she had wagered on the wrong man. By the conclusion of that initial phase of collapse, Robyn had ceased to cry at all. The woman who wept in confessionals, pleading for cohesion, now sat impassive in the darkness. The silence was oppressive, and within that silence, the seeds of her freedom were sown. Because the truth was evident, Kody Brown wasn't losing his money alone. He was losing the last wife, who still had faith in him. Robyn Brown had long been the never-questioning wife. When Christine spoke up, Robyn was silent. When Janelle spoke to Kody about money, Robyn remained loyal. When Meri broke down, after years of abandonment, Robyn stood by the man in the middle. To the outside world, she was the loyal one. The wife who would never, no matter what, leave. But loyalty has a point of breakdown. And for Robyn, that point of breakdown was not a scream, not a struggle, but silence. During the weeks following Kody's financial downfall, something within Robyn changed. She remained in the same residence, still executed the same daily patterns, packing lunches, homework checking, eating at the dinner table, but she no longer existed on the same plane. Her mind had wandered someplace else, somewhere distant, and Kody sensed it like a chilly breeze seeping through the windows of an unsealed crack. Initially, the transformation was subtle. She ceased to laugh at his humor. She ceased to lean on his shoulder. When they sat as a couple, she ceased to inquire about his future plans for the land, his perpetual dream of building a family compound on Coyote Pass. Rather, she pulled away in subtle but significant ways. Her phone, once left on the counter, was now attached to her hand. She spent later hours at night, scrolling through pages, tapping on keyboards, talking softly into the light of the screen, as Kody shifted uncomfortably in bed. She went out more often, errands that consumed hours, walks that turned into extended absences. Kody noticed. He always noticed. His controlling personality required it. "Where are you going?" he asked one afternoon, his voice cutting. "Out," she said, briefly, not looking at him. "With who?" There was silence. That silence was more accusatory than any admission. Robyn had started talking to someone. For a while it was someone with whom she had a previous acquaintance, who made overtures through social media. A message of condolence. A soft check-in. "I saw what's been going on. How are you coping?" She didn't mean it to come to anything. But after all those years standing in the shadow of a man who is underwater in pride and excuses, a gentle word sounds like water in the desert. She found herself talking, revealing parts of her tale she had never had the courage to utter. And on the other side was a man who listened. A man who didn't interrupt. Who didn't belittle. Who didn't explode into rage at the mention of failure. This man was everything Kody was not. He was stable. He was established. He was wealthy, yes. But it wasn't just about money. It was the way he carried himself. The way he spoke with calm assurance. The way he made Robyn feel safe. Safe in a way she hadn't felt in years. Gradually, Robyn's silence became her armor. She no longer protested on Kody's behalf. When his former wives accused him of being irresponsible, she no longer repeated his explanations when collectors came to the door. She no longer wore the mask of supportive wife. Rather, she sat in silence, head down, mind elsewhere with someone other than Kody. Kody became desperate. He accused her of backing away, betraying him, of losing trust. But the more he pushed, the more she backed away. At home, as Kody walked back and forth in the living room, ranting about betrayal and loyalty, Robyn sat on the couch with a phone glowing in her hand. Her lips tingled with tiny smiles at messages Kody would never read. Her heartbeat accelerated not with her husband's voice, but with the chime of a notification. She didn't have to shout to get her message across. Her silence shouted for her. For years, Robyn had been branded the favorite wife. Fans had accused her of manipulation, of enjoying Kody's favoritism, while the others went without. But in private, that favoritism had been a jail. It put her into a position she didn't want to be in. The defender, the apologist, the emotional caretaker of a man who was fraying before her eyes. Now in silence, she was escaping. The kids picked up on it, too. They reeled in their mom's stress when she went outside, her smile when she came back from her long errands. They didn't know what was going on, but they knew something was off. For once, Robyn wasn't the tearful wife bending down to cry in her confessionals. She wasn't the woman pleading with the family to reunite. She was lighter, stronger, alive. One night, the tension came to a head. Kody charged into the kitchen, his voice raised, his hands shaking. "I know something's happening, Robyn. Don't you fib to me. You've been sneaking around, and I'm not going to stand for it." Robyn set down her phone cautiously, their eyes locking in an icy stillness he had never seen before. "You won't accept it?" she said quietly. "What about all that I've accepted, Kody? The debt, the lies, the humiliation. I accepted you when Christine walked out, when Janelle left, when Meri told you she couldn't do it anymore. I accepted your anger, your failures, your pride. But you know what? I'm not accepting anything anymore." Her words sliced through him more viciously than any knife. Kody opened his mouth to retort, but words didn't come. For the first time, he knew he no longer controlled her. Robyn didn't pick up her bags that evening. She didn't rage out the door, but she didn't need to. The gap between them was already so wide that no bridge could be laid to cover it. And as Kody held on to his pride, Robyn worked unobtrusively on her freedom. Each text she sent to her new friend was another brick in the wall between her and Kody. Each dinner she had without explanation was another move further away from the man she swore to love. Each silence was another crumbling piece of the marriage into dust. Robyn's transformation was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was not the shouting fights viewers had grown accustomed to. It was subtle. It was consistent. It was relentless. To the rest of the world, Robyn still appeared to be Kody's last faithful wife. She still escorted him to the side of interviews. She still smiled politely when he talked. But if you looked hard, you could sense it in her eyes. The distance, the detachment, the chill. Kody was holding on to an image, but reality was evading his grasp. Behind the cameras, Robyn no longer belonged to him. She was hers. And bit by bit, she was starting to be someone else's. This was Robyn's quiet revolution, not a loud rebellion, not a public betrayal, but a slow fraying of love already dead. The silence that previously had made her seem submissive now was rebellion. It was her tool, and it was stronger than any argument would ever be. For in that silence, Kody finally saw the truth. He wasn't simply losing command of his family, he was losing Robyn. And the worst part, he couldn't prevent it. It was a night that would set everything in motion. The night quiet turned to conflict. The night Robyn and Kody's marriage at long last went too far. The Brown family was not unfamiliar with tension. Years had gone by, and arguments had become the norm, almost like a cast member in their own drama. But this time was different. This was not about the other wives or the kids. This was not about polygamy controversies or property issues. This was personal. This was about trust, betrayal, and the breakdown of a bond that had once been believed to be unstoppable. Kody returned home late that night, his face fatigued, his demeanor irritable. He spent the day fending off excuses, talking to creditors about why payments hadn't been received, deflecting inquiries from producers regarding the show's sagging ratings, and attempting to reassure himself that he was still in charge. But it all changed as he stepped through the front door. All that aggravation transformed into one target: Robyn. She stood in the hallway, wearing an exquisite coat that glimmered in the light. Her makeup was perfect, her hair immaculately styled, her perfume wafting in the air like a secret. She wasn't going out for a quick grocery store run. She was going out for something else. Something Kody wasn't invited to. "Where are you going dressed like that?" His tone was cold, accusatory, laced with fear he couldn't repress. Robyn came slowly around, her face still, almost peaceful. "Out to dinner." "With whom?" Kody barked, advancing on her. His eyes blazed with suspicion, his hands clenching at his sides. Robyn said nothing. She didn't have to. The silence was sufficient. Kody's heart raced in his chest. He had always boasted of control. Control of his family, control of his wives, control of the story. But standing before Robyn's silence, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. "Powerless, are you seeing someone?" he bellowed, his voice shaking between anger and desperation. "After everything I've given you?" Robyn's eyes narrowed. She laughed, softly and on the bitter edge, the kind of laugh that told him she no longer loved him, no longer believed him, no longer feared him. "Everything you've given me?" she snapped. "Kody, what have you given me? Debt? Heartbreak? Promises you never fulfilled? You tore this family apart, not me." The words stung him like a slap. For years, Robyn had been the wife who stood up for him. She wept when the world condemned him. She begged for harmony. When the family broke apart, she bore the weight of loyalty, even if it made her the villain to the rest of the world. But now, in this instant, all that loyalty fell under the pressure of her truth. "You think I stayed because I wanted to?" Robyn went on, her voice trembling now with passion. "I stayed because I believed in you. I believed in your promises. I believed you would provide for us. But look around, Kody. Look at what we have left. Christine is gone. Janelle is gone. Meri is gone. And now, we've lost everything. And you want me to stand here and act like you're still the man I married?" Kody's face grew red, his chest laboring. You think you're innocent? You think you've done nothing wrong? I'm guilty, Robyn confessed, tears welling in her eyes. I'm guilty of believing in you. That's my only fault. The house was still except for their breathing. The children slept, never knowing what was erupting downstairs. But the walls listened anyway, repeating the words back louder, sharper, meaner. Kody moved closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. So, it's true, there is someone else. Robyn didn't say anything. She didn't say no. She just looked at him, her silence screaming louder than any admission could ever hope to. And in the quiet, Kody knew, this was the moment, the breaking point. The very moment when their marriage ceased to be a marriage and became a war zone. Kody's voice cracked, desperation seeping through his rage. After everything I've given, after everything I've lost, you're going to walk away, you're going to betray me? Robyn's tears fell at last. But they weren't tears of regret, they were tears of release. You didn't give, Kody, you controlled, you didn't protect me, you shattered me, and I won't let you shatter me again. The battle raged late into the night. Kody pleaded, begged, shouted, and swore. He pounded the table with his fists, ranted on the subject of loyalty, and attempted to shame her with recollections of their early days together. But Robyn didn't move. Whenever he shouted, she grew more subdued. Whenever he attempted to draw her back, she moved away. It wasn't the blazing battle Kody had anticipated. It wasn't fire and brimstone. It was fire and water, his fury ablaze, and hers icy water that soaked it all away. And by dawn he knew he had lost. Robyn didn't depart that evening. She didn't grab her suitcase or slam out the door. But the emotional exit had already taken place. Kody could sense it in his very bones. When she finally headed up to bed, him sitting by himself at the kitchen table with all of the foreclosure notices and soda bottles in front of him, Kody hid his face in his hands. For the first time, the man who always said he was strong, who always said that he was in control, cracked, because deep down, he knew the truth. He had lost Christine. He had lost Janelle. He had lost Meri. And now he was losing Robyn too. The turning point wasn't a matter of one dinner, or one fight. It was a matter of years of neglect, years of deception, years of broken promises that never materialized. Robyn had borne the burden of loyalty, long after it broke her spirit. But now she was laying it down, and by laying it down, she was laying herself free. Over the next few days, Robyn ghosted through the home. She remained there, spoke to Kody when required, took care of her children, but emotionally she had left. Kody attempted to dig her back in with gestures, flowers, apologies, pleading discussions of reconciliation, but it was too late. The breaking point was over, and there was no going back. For the first time in her marriage, Robyn wasn't intimidated by Kody's rage. She wasn't held captive by his promises. She wasn't swayed by his vision. She was just done. And although she hadn't yet uttered the words out loud, they both knew this was the start of the end. The breaking point wasn't explosive to the world. There weren't any cameras rolling that evening. No morning headlines. But for Robyn and Kody, that was the evening everything shifted. The evening loyalty perished. The evening silence turned to truth. The evening Robyn chose herself first. The breaking point had passed and gone, but the storm did not end in that midnight confrontation. In a lot of ways, it was only the start, because once a marriage splits wide open, there is no turning back. And for Robyn, what followed wasn't just survival, it was rebirth. She didn't depart right away. No suitcases were pulled out the door, no screeching cars in the driveway. For Robyn, the transition was quieter, more even, and much more purposeful. She had already departed on a psychological level. Now she was discovering what it was like to begin anew. Initially the change was only apparent in the tiny things. The makeup she applied before going out wasn't for Kody anymore, but for her. The dresses she wore were more vibrant, more assertive, less to fade into the walls. She smiled more, not because of her husband's compliments, but because of what she saw in the mirror. And then there were the omissions, the errands that ran late into the night, the silent phone calls in the kitchen past midnight, the laughter, low, contained, but genuine, that Kody hadn't heard from her in years. To the world outside, Robyn remained Kody's final faithful wife. But in here, she was already constructing a new life. The first time paparazzi saw her, it wasn't long before the pictures made the rounds. Robyn Brown, the woman that fans used to feel sorry for as she cried, was captured laughing across a table in a restaurant. Her friend was tall, angular in a fitted suit, his watch catching the dim light. He leaned in to listen when she talked. She leaned in to hear him respond. The photo was unmistakable. Robyn wasn't mourning the failure of her marriage. She was on to new things. Headlines burst. Robyn Brown finds love. Kody's favorite wife, spotted with mystery man. The internet buzzed with gossip. Some supporters were appalled. Others cheered. But everyone was buzzing about it. And for Kody, it was ultimate embarrassment. He confronted her, naturally. He couldn't help it. "I saw the photos, Robyn," he bellowed, his voice ringing out in the kitchen. "Do you have any idea what this looks like? Do you have any idea what people are saying?" Robyn didn't blink. She didn't recoil. Instead, she leaned forward slightly, her serenity piercing his anger. "I know exactly what it looks like," she replied quietly. "It looks like I'm finally happy." The words hit like a dagger. Kody's hands trembled. He attempted to protest, to spin it into betrayal, to shame her into compliance. But the truth shone on her face. She wasn't embarrassed. She wasn't sorry. She was free. For years Robyn had carried the burden of being Kody's shield. She defended him when Christine accused him of lies. She stood beside him when Janelle fought over finances. She smiled quietly, while Meri's loneliness consumed her. To the world, Robyn was the favorite, the chosen one. But what no one saw was the cost. The endless pressure, the endless blame, the endless isolation. Now, for the first time, she was emerging from that shadow, and it was evident in everything she did. Her children felt it first. The tension which used to tighten the house relaxed. The gloom that used to pull down their mother's face lifted. She was no longer tiptoeing. She was striding with assurance. And they too felt light. Robyn's new man wasn't only rich, he was down to earth. He had built his fortune deliberately, without the turmoil that pursued Kody like a specter. He heard her out when she talked, chuckled when she joked, inquired about her aspirations. He didn't scorn her fears. He calmed them. He didn't promise her moats in the desert. He provided her firm ground to stand on. It was not just attraction. It was stability. It was safety. And after years of seeing everything implode, that was the most intoxicating present of all. The world saw Robyn's transformation in real time. Fans who previously judged her started to cheer for her. She finally escaped. One read, "I never thought she'd be strong enough." Another said, "Robyn deserves happiness too. Maybe now she'll actually find it." For the first time, Robyn was not the villain of the sister wives saga. She was the survivor, the woman who suffered, who believed, who stood up, and who eventually chose herself. Kody, however, spun deeper into despair. He ranted in interviews, pointing fingers at the media, at the previous wives who left him, at everyone but himself. He insisted Robyn remained faithful, that rumors were mere lies, that the connection between them was impervious to destruction. But his words were empty, because regardless of how many times he said no, the pictures spoke otherwise. The smile on Robyn's face spoke otherwise. The quiet in his house spoke otherwise. In private, Kody attempted to do everything in his power to regain her. He showered her with flowers, planned vacations, promised change. But all of it came across as insincere, empty, too little, too late. Robyn did not bicker with him. She did not struggle. She merely nodded, smiled kindly, and continued on. Because at some level she already knew, she was through. She had been done the instant the quiet became space. The instant her tears had evaporated. The instant she had grasped that love without respect is not love. The fresh start wasn't without trepidation. Robyn had been living so long under Kody's control that venturing into her own life seemed foreign, even threatening. She feared what others would say, what her children would think, what Kody would do. But each time she faltered, the man beside her calmed her. Each time she wavered, he told her of her value. And gradually Robyn began to believe in herself once more. She did not have to be the favorite wife anymore. She did not have to come to the defense of a man who ruined everything he touched. She did not have to weep in secret, pleading for crumbs of love. Now she was making choices. Making choices on her future. Making choices on happiness. Making choices on herself. For Kody, the loss of the image of that man was unbearable. He had constructed his life around control, around the picture of a man with obedient wives at his side, the father of a large extended family. And now that picture was in ruins. Christine had departed with fire. Janelle had departed with strength. Meri had departed with quiet resolve. And Robyn, the wife he never imagined would leave, was fading away from him, not in rage, but in grace. That was the greatest hurt of all. As the weeks passed into months, the transformation became impossible to deny. Robyn no longer kept her evenings a secret. She no longer stilled her laughter. She no longer acted as though her existence was bound to Kody's. The fans noticed. The children noticed. And lastly, even Kody noticed. The new beginning wasn't on its way. It was already there. It wasn't just about a new man for Robyn. It was about finding herself again. For the first time in years, she gazed into the mirror and did not see Kody's favorite wife, but Robyn, the woman, the mother, the survivor, the dreamer. The house was still, too still. For all those years, Kody Brown lived for noise. The talking of wives, the giggling of children, the pandemonium of polygamy, that he sported like a badge of honor. But now, the stillness weighed on him, like an unshakable burden. The kitchen table, where family meetings and arguments at 3 a.m. used to take place, was covered in piles of foreclosure documents and unpaid bills. The chairs stood empty around him, a reminder of whom wasn't sitting in them. Christine was absent. Janelle was absent. Meri was absent. Meri was absent. And now Robyn had even escaped. The man who previously boasted of being a four-wives husband sat alone, looking at the ruins of his own making. Kody had always envisioned himself as invincible. He talked of legacy, of establishing a family compound that would last for generations. He saw children and grandchildren on his property, a dynasty united through his vision. But it had all fallen apart, not due to destiny, but due to him. The reality was irrefutable. His ego, his possessiveness, his intransigence had poisoned it all. Christine departed first, with the flame that had once burned the family. Janelle went next, with the strength and practicality that had kept them together. Meri, tired and shattered, finally ended her unspoken allegiance. And Robyn, the one wife he had assumed would remain no matter what, had discovered happiness elsewhere. Kody was no longer the head of the household. He was merely a man by himself. Nights were the worst. He would roam the halls, tormented by whispers of arguments and laughter long past. He would find himself hoping Robyn would show up at the top of the stairs. Christine would ring the doorbell. Janelle would test him with her determined will, or Meri would give him one last opportunity. But no one showed up. The house was merely walls now, empty and hollow. In interviews, Kody attempted to spin the narrative. He blamed the media, the wives, even the fans who had criticized him. They never understood the pressure, he maintained. They never saw the sacrifices I made. But he knew. In the end, he knew the sacrifices had never been for them. They were for his reputation. He wasn't constructing a family. He was constructing an empire for himself. And empires constructed out of pride tend to crumble. What hurt the worst wasn't the economic downturn. It wasn't even the loss of assets or the fading glory. What hurt the worst was Robyn. For years, she was his anchor. She stood up for him when no one else would. She wept for him, battled for him, stood at his side even when the others turned their backs. She was his last bulwark against the world. And now she had walked away too. Not in anger but in quiet determination, her hand slipping into another man's. That betrayal cut deeper than any loss of money. Kody would sit at the table and relive the past in his head. He remembered Christine's final words. "You don't care about us, Kody, you only care about control." He remembered Janelle's blame. "You destroyed us with your deceptions and your pride." He remembered Meri's tears, her solitary years in pain, the years he could not see her suffering. And then he thought of Robyn's calm voice, the one that shattered him completely. "I'm finally happy." Each memory was a wound. Each word was a scar. For the first time, Kody was forced to confront himself. There were no wives to point fingers. No scapegoats. No excuses. Just him and the mirror. And in that mirror he did not see a leader, not a patriarch, not the visionary he always wanted to be. He saw a man who had lost everything. The cameras didn't record those nights. They didn't witness him sitting in the darkness, his hands covering his head. They didn't witness how his shoulders curved, the way his eyes lost their luster, the way his voice broke when he was talking to himself. How did it come to this? But the reality was plain. It came to this because he allowed it to happen. In the meantime, the world went on. Christine forged a new existence, shining with liberty. Janelle proudly stood, independent and strong. Meri got her voice back, after being silenced for so long. And Robyn radiated along with a man who provided her stability and love that Kody never was able to. Fans no longer sympathized with Kody. They did not view him as a befuddled patriarch. They viewed him as the author of his own destiny. The internet was abuzz with opinion. This is karma. He finally got what he deserves. 4 wives and now none. The man who insisted on loyalty had been left behind, deserted by the very individuals he believed he could control. Kody held on to denial as much as he could. He reassured himself that Robyn would return, that her new relationship was a phase, that her happiness was an illusion. But denial could not drown out the truth. He saw it in her eyes the last time they talked. He saw it in the way she stopped flinching from his anger, stopped softening to his pleas, stopped caring about his promises. Robyn was no longer afraid. And where fear was gone, power was lost to Kody. The ultimate blow, however, was not one of words, but of silence. Robyn ceased to answer his calls. She ceased to respond to his messages. The woman who had hastened to reassure him now offered him nothing. That silence was the loudest goodbye of all. There he sat, by himself in the empty house. The walls came in on him, and the silence screamed at him louder than any battle ever could. He had lost his family, his wives, his name. He had lost everything. And for the first time, Kody Brown felt the burden of loneliness. Not the loneliness of not being understood, not the loneliness of isolation, but the loneliness of recognizing that it was all his fault. The Kody and Robyn story didn't end in fireworks. It didn't end in a courtroom showdown or a scandal. It ended. Robyn started anew. A life of stability and hope. Kody was left behind, stuck in the remains of a dream that only he held dear. Nuffed quietly realizing that love cannot endure on control, and loyalty cannot endure on deception. And the world watched, not in surprise, but in finality. For deep inside, everyone knew this was inevitable. The man who had everything now had nothing. Kody Brown was alone.